Well, hello and good afternoon. I am Dr. Carla J. Cook, global psychologist, entrepreneur, and mental wellness expert. And I am just so glad that you are here. I am so pleased that we have this opportunity to connect together. So, what do I do? I empower high achieving women and great men. I empower them to take care of the business of self so that they can be more successful in business. And how do I do that? Through the practice of mental wellness principles. And those, when I talk about mental wellness, I'm really talking about a state or a condition of elevated, that's high level, superior, abundant mental well being that's achieved through the cultivation of psychological, emotional, relational, cognitive resources that really results in emotional freedom, peak performance, and healthy adaptive functioning. And so this year, you and I, we're going to be delving more into the subject matter and really looking at how it applies to us so that we can continue to get better, so we continue to grow, so that we continue to evolve. And that's actually what we are discussing on today. We're talking about growth and how growth requires us going inward. And so, therefore, how do we get grounded? Let's begin and let's get grounded as we talk about the subject matter growth. Well, what we already know, let's just set the foundation of this. Growth is something that's just inherent in us. It is how we are wired, it's how we're built. If we think about it, even from the moment of conception, right, there is an ongoing growth that occurs. And yes, we are always continuing to evolve. And if we look at growth, growth is within each life domain. So we do grow physically, we grow intellectually, we grow vocationally, we grow emotionally, we grow financially. But if we really think about growth, we can also think about the fact that we influence that growth, influence it in terms of how much we grow, when we grow, if we don't grow, or even if we atrophy, that we influence all of that. So if you think about even in the physical realm of growth, if we are in the gym or if we are physically active, we're taking walks or we're eating clean, all of that contributes to what we know of our physical growth. If we think about intellectually, with reading, with studying, going back to school, YouTube, exposing ourselves to information, that's going to allow us to grow intellectually. So I know you get this. We're on the same page about growth and growth in each area of life. And I was thinking about the fact that very often growth happens out of the awareness of others. And so, what I mean by that is we're not necessarily always growing in public. Now, not that that cannot happen, but a lot of the times it's in the background. Like nobody knows that we're going to the gym. No one necessarily knows the study that we undergo or the things that we do to grow intellectually. People don't necessarily see how we're growing emotionally. And as a matter of fact, sometimes there's this belief that people just kind of show up as high functioning when really in the background, out of awareness, right, there are things that are being done. And I started to think about growth even in terms of like plants, growth in terms of seeds, right, that are underground, that they're out of our awareness, that we could be walking by and we never know that there's something happening underground. But all of a sudden, that seed breaks through the ground, and now we see that it's in our awareness. So when I started to think really about one of the staples of really growing emotionally, and the fact that this happens out of awareness. And even if you think about the seed being underground, there's a lot of stillness and there's a lot of silence. And I'm going to be talking in the future a lot about silence. I really want to encourage you to pick up. I have a free 7 video series on strategies for getting better at silence, to have more silence, to tap into silence, to lean into silence, and to really look at the benefits of silence. And you can go ahead and you can pick that up. Actually, what's on the screen right now is there is a sound of silence retreat. But I would like to invite you to pick up Success with Silence. And so you can go to www.successwithsilence.com. And right there, I'm giving you 7 strategies to have more success with silence, because our growth is happening in times of stillness, in times of silence, in times when we are not seen and when we are out of sight. And so as we really continue to look at this principle of growth, right? Because growth is a principle, it's something that happens, it's a reality, which is why I love principles and why I teach about mental wealth principles, because principles, whether we believe in them or not, they work. They are reality. They are standing. If we lean into them, we're going to see some results. We're going to have some success if we follow through on principles, because they are realities of life. They are truths of life. And, when I think about mental wealthness, and I think about this principle of emotional growth, I start to think about financial growth, right? For financial growth, we are always intentional with financial growth. And the truth is that in order for us to grow and emotionally, it's important that we are intentional as well. The other thing about financial growth is that most, if not all of us, understand that it doesn't have a limit, that we want to continue to achieve higher levels of financial wealth, of that financial freedom that is available to us and that we can have. And I think it's important for us to think about emotional or mental wealthness in this way as well. Sometimes I believe that we are just okay or at a comfortable level with our functioning, how we show up. Like, I engage in self-care, which is important, um, and it is helpful, and it helps us to show up well. In addition to that, there are higher levels of mental wealthness that we can achieve. And so we can strive to get better, to elevate, to have those superior levels, so that we could begin to show up um, in ways that are over and above how we navigate life, in a place that is good, great, where we're doing well, where we're functioning well. We can even achieve more. Just like with financial wellness, we can go higher. We can. There's no limit. There's no cap on that. So that's a principle. Let's hold on to that as we go throughout this year, and not be comfortable, not skate by, not feel like we've achieved enough, because as soon as we have enough, there's more. There's more that we can have. And I think about the fact that with this more, think about with individuals that are wealthy financially. They don't stop looking at their budget. They don't stop looking at spending and expenses. They don't stop investing. As a matter of fact, more than likely, they are more connected to that realm. And so it's the same for us, especially when we are high achievers, when we're high performers, um, to understand that for us to continue to climb, for us to continue to push, for us to continue to meet the demands of life and navigate as we continue to go higher, that we don't want to rest in a comfortable place with where we are emotionally. We want mental wealthness. We want that state, that condition of superior, enhanced, abundant mental well being. And I think the other thing that I will say is I talked about the fact that it's required for us to go inward, right? Growth, there's a requirement for us to go inward. And so that means that we have to be connected to our emotions. We have to have a relationship with our emotions. And just as we have relationships in the natural, that we continue to cultivate them, we continue to develop them, that we want to continue to develop our relationship with emotions. We are all in different places with that. Some of us are experts. Some of us are on a beginner level. We're elementary. We're still growing. We still tend to avoid. But how many of you know, like I know, that again, there has to be this ongoing cultivation because there's ongoing growth. We don't stay where we are every day. There are new challenges every day. There may be new developments in our life. There may be things that are unfamiliar that we're now walking in. They're not always challenges. Sometimes they are great opportunities that we have, yet it mandates that we have to plug in, go inward, and get connected to where we are emotionally, what's in the ground emotionally, to begin to lean into that and to begin to allow our emotions to speak. I always talk about the fact that emotions are messengers. And so as we grow and as we have that requirement of going inward, going inward means that we have to confront sometimes the unknown. And sometimes it's the unknown, that very thing that makes us distance ourselves from emotion, because we're not going to know how we're going to feel or what's going to come up. We may need to really deal with some fears and some anxieties about the challenges or the opportunities that we have. And if we are avoiding that, or if we're having difficulty plugging into that, or if we only want to stay in emotions, quote unquote, positive emotions like joy, then it's going to be more difficult for us to connect. And we're going to miss an opportunity for those emotions to speak. And so, I think the last thing I will say about this, as we come to a point where I'm going to pause, because this is just a power talk. This is food for thought. This is some things to take away, hold on to, and really begin to look at, how do I apply this to my life? Whether it be a reminder, whether it be new information, whether there be something in particular that really stands out to you for this part of your journey. Um, the last thing that I would really talk about, excuse me, in terms of this going inward, I think about, so often we rightly, validly focus on things like self-care, have things having to do with self-care, whether that be unplugging, exercise, eating clean, um, all of those things in order to help us to fulfill the obligations of life, meet the daily demands of life. I advocate for self-care. I engage in self-care. I need self-care, and so do you. I also want to suggest to you that as we dive into this topic of mental wellness, it includes self care, but we also have to begin, or in addition, begin to go beyond self care, to begin to look at things like self management, self acceptance, self efficacy, that there's so much more of a broader landscape for us to begin to look at as we deal with the business of self, so that we can be more successful in our careers, more successful in our family life, in our relationships, more successful in feeling like we have success, feeling satisfied with life, more successful, in our intellectual pursuits. We are leaning into principles of mental wellness, and it is going to show up. It's going to show up in peace and financial freedom, peak performance states, healthy adaptive functioning. So, finally, let me just remind you, and I'm just putting this in, to absolutely, you want to head on over and pick up the Success with Silence. That's a .com, right? And I'll put it in the comments as well, the link to that. And so right there, you're going to find a 7-video series on 7 strategies for more success with silence, because silence is going to help you go inward. Silence is going to help you grow. And so I look forward to ongoing conversations, ongoing connection with you. Thank you so much for jumping in, whether you are on live or on the replay. I appreciate you, and I will see you next time. Take care.